Hey, everyone. When Clint Eastwood walked into one of LA's most luxurious restaurants wearing just a simple polo shirt and slacks, nobody recognized the legendary actor and director. That's when an arrogant waitress made the biggest mistake of her career. She tried to kick out and humiliate a man she thought was just some random older customer. What she didn't know was that Clint didn't just have a reservation, he owned the entire restaurant. What happened next became a Hollywood legend because, in true Clint Eastwood style, he turned this moment into the most unexpected lesson about respect that the restaurant had ever seen. It was a typical Friday evening at the Grand Oak. The recently renovated dining room buzzed with lays of late, young tech moguls in designer suits, social media influencers capturing their gold leaf desserts, and old money families maintaining their weekly traditions. Among them sat a man in a simple gray polo shirt and casual slacks, quietly sipping whiskey at his usual corner table. Most of the veteran staff recognized him, of course. How could they not? But 6 months ago, when Clint Eastwood quietly purchased the Grand Oak, he'd given them strict instructions. Treat him like any other customer during his periodic quality checks. He believed the true measure of a restaurant wasn't in how they treated celebrities, but in how they treated everyday people. Rachel, the restaurant's newest waitress, didn't know any of this. Fresh from a prestigious hospitality school and building her own food influencer following, she spent her shift alternating between fawning over social media personalities and casting disdainful glances at the underdressed man in her section. Thomas, the longtime manager, watched nervously from across the room. He'd seen that look in Rachel's eyes before. The same look she'd given a retired surgeon last week who dared to wear loafers instead of formal shoes. But tonight was different. Tonight, her judgment would carry consequences she couldn't imagine. As Rachel's clicking heels approached Clint's table, Thomas held his breath. The veteran staff tensed, recognizing the calm before a storm. The quiet man in the polo shirt simply took another sip of his whiskey, a familiar half-smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Rachel positioned herself at the table, her iPhone partially visible in her apron pocket. Her practiced smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sir, I couldn't help but notice you've been nursing that house whiskey for quite a while now." Clint looked up, meeting her gaze with the same steady calm that had faced down countless Hollywood executives over the decades. "It's a good whiskey," he said simply. "Perhaps," Rachel continued, her tone dripping with fake concern, "you'd be more comfortable at the bar. We're expecting several reserved parties, and this table," she gestured to the pristine white tablecloth, "is typically for our dining guests." A young busboy named Miguel, who had immigrated from Mexico 2 years ago and worked tirelessly to support his family, overheard the exchange while clearing a nearby table. He knew exactly who the man in the polo shirt was. He'd seen every Clint Eastwood film with his father growing up. His hands tightened around the bus tub, fighting the urge to say something. "I'm comfortable here," Clint replied simply, taking another unhurried sip. Rachel's professional veneer cracked slightly. She glanced at her watch, then at a group of young tech executives waiting by the host stand. "Sir, our executive chef prepares a very exclusive menu. The prices," she paused meaningfully, eyeing his casual attire, "reflect the caliber of our establishment." At the next table, an older couple who had been regulars for 20 years shifted uncomfortably. The husband started to speak up, but his wife touched his arm, recognizing the look in Clint's eyes, the same look that had preceded some of cinema's most memorable moments. "I'm aware of the prices," Clint said quietly, his voice carrying that familiar gravelly tone that had commanded attention in countless films. "And the chef's work." Rachel's smile vanished completely now. She pulled out her order pad with sharp, irritated movements. "Well then, sir, shall I explain our menu slowly, perhaps?" The last words carried a distinct jab at his age. Miguel, still nearby, couldn't stand it anymore. He stepped forward, his voice quiet but determined. "Miss Rachel, maybe I should get Thomas." "Stay out of this," Rachel snapped at him. "Go bus tables. That's what you're here for." She turned back to Clint, who had watched the exchange with particular interest in Miguel's attempt to help. "Now, sir, one last time." The tension in the dining room was palpable. Guests tried not to stare, but the contrast between Rachel's growing agitation and Clint's unshakable calm was impossible to ignore. "This isn't some diner off the highway," Rachel continued, her voice rising enough to draw attention from nearby tables. This is the Grand Oak. Perhaps in your day things were different, but now we have standards. Clint set his whiskey down slowly and deliberately. The movement was subtle but somehow commanded more attention than Rachel's outburst. A few of the older patrons recognized it, the same measured calm before some of cinema's most iconic moments. In my day, he repeated softly, one eyebrow rising slightly. Yes, your day, Rachel continued, her disdain evident. When people could just walk in anywhere, dress however they wanted, order the cheapest drink, and take up space meant for real customers. Times have changed. Modern luxury, Clint repeated thoughtfully, as if testing the words. And what exactly does that mean to you, Rachel?